bed.
Memories are not made in traffic. Before you leave, remember to check in.
Oh, scoot over, dog.
More living, less driving. Time-saving traffic updates. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM. 915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. If you wanted to chime in over there or even call in, because we also got that phone number open right now. For those that may not be familiar, today is a very important day in our weekly calendar of events here because it's Free for All Friday. We have made it through this week, and with the weekend in sight, we definitely going to delving into all of the issues that have been going on here around the borderland. Certainly our focus the rest of the week, but also opening it up to, well, just about any subject. We got those open lines throughout the program here, so if you wanted to chime in that way, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, the number to dial there, and we'll get into it because it's been another very, very busy news week here. Even with just some of the local stuff, one of the things that has not been just totally top of mind, but well, I've been watching here, let's just call it Stupid Criminal Report. Not exactly a thing we usually do, but I can't help but notice it with that. We had mentioned it was kind of happening as we were coming into a program in recent weeks, but the bank robbery that ended up happening in the downtown branch here, I feel like we have had, a lot of media does us a disservice when it comes to the conception of things, whether it be romance, growing up, or crime in this case, because the total number value of the money that was gotten away from that bank robbery, of that was that whole big response happening downtown, was under $2,000. Now, not expecting every stick 'em up job to be a Dark Knight Joker level heist, but seriously, all of that was for $2,000. Not at all saying that this guy was therefore justified in it, though it does bring up questions of, was the response, worth it? But seriously, all that work, all that effort, and ruining your life over $2,000. It puts things in perspective for me about how just ridiculous of a situation that is. And also, again, the stupid criminal part of it comes in because apparently it was trying to be a little cagey about it, had done some scouting of areas, and looked at another, like Bank of America, but he had left a handprint and apparently was distinctive enough from the way he did it and acting weird enough that they then went back and found the handprint and traced it to, well, this guy. Again, you can find it from the news partners over there at KFOX 14, the full story on it, but just, seriously not intelligent, and for just so small an amount. I wonder if the calculus is worth it in the long run here. Flaco Jimenez chiming in. Shout out to my daughter, Jackie, who graduates tomorrow from ENMIU with a degree in physical health. Congrats there. Driving by UTEP today by the Don Haskins Center, saw one of their graduations going on. I think in that case, if I'm not mistaken, again, from our news partners over at KFOX 14, that was the Texas Tech Health Sciences Center, one of their schools celebrating their graduation there. That they're holding their commencement ceremonies coming up here as well. So it certainly is that season. Also definitely a shout out to those recent graduates from NMSU. Have a few friends up there who have been doing so. Just 'tis the season. Hope you enjoy backyard barbacoa and those kind of things. I know I've been having a good time with it myself here, so congrats to those. Jay Visconti, and one of those other issues going on here today, those darn formula hoarders making Biden look bad. The Biden administration now launching a web page to help parents find baby formula amid shortage. That's, definitely ANMU. No, Flaco Jimenez is correcting me there. Yeah. No way, no worries here. RJ letting us know, on the stupid criminal report, had to laugh, thinking less than $1 a day in prison, way less. Yeah, the calculus just doesn't work out there. But Again, I don't understand that mentality overall. So I got to imagine that probably not worth it in the long run here. But as I've mentioned, we do have those phone lines open. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Ruben, Andrew. How are you doing?
Doing all right there, Ruben. What's on your mind?
Yes, Andrew, I was just calling in reference to, I wanted to share some Bible verses for Raul, the one that usually calls.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying, hopefully he has a pen and a paper ready to write these. These are very good verses to look up for all of all of your hearers. It's
Sure.
the word. I firmly believe in what the Word of God says. I've taught the Word of God at the county jail for 20 years. But let me share them right away. So hopefully he'll write them down. It's Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5, Psalm 145, verse 18, Psalm 39, verse 4 to 7, Isaiah 5, 20 to 23, John chapter 3, 1 through 8, Romans chapter 3, 10 to 18, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 9 to 11, Ephesians 4, verses 17 to 32, Colossians chapter 2, verse 6 through 10, 2 Timothy 3, 1 to 5, and 2 Timothy 4, 3 to 4. And I highly recommend to your hearers, if they can download an app, the New King James Bible version. It's a more readable translation compared to the Old King James. The English is more up to date.
Oh, yeah.
And also for Raul, I highly recommend Raul to go into YouTube and look up this teaching. Just type it in, The Doctrine of Absolute Inability by John MacArthur. It's 58 minutes and 17 seconds. I'm saying the 58 minutes and 70 seconds, so he'll know, or whoever looks it up knows which one it is, that it's the correct one. But John MacArthur, maybe, I don't know if you're familiar with John MacArthur. He's a very good Bible expositor.
Okay.
And this is, and I'm just encouraging people, especially in the times that we live in. On Sundays, my wife and I, every Sunday, we hear Jack Hibbs, Hibbs, from Chino Hills, California, Calvary Chapel. He's on YouTube at 9, 11:30, and 2 o'clock El Paso time. And I highly recommend him. He's a very good Bible teacher, too, because you know what? We live in a time that, honestly, that we're calling good evil and evil good. And that's a thing, that, I mean, to me, if I'm going to represent the Word of God, I better represent it in a way that is honoring to God. Even in James 3, it says, let not many of you become teachers, because your judgment is going to be more stricter. If I'm going to represent the Word of God, like the other day that Raul said that Jesus didn't say anything about homosexuality, but if you read the whole Word of God, it does talk about it. So you cannot just say because Jesus didn't say this or whatever. Jesus said, the man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, not to his husband, and the two shall become one flesh. So we cannot be twisting the things to try to fit our way of thinking. And the problem with all of us really, it's everybody wants to be their own God in their life. And that is why this world is all messed up, because everybody trying to do their own thing. But no, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Oh, no, you've laid out a lot of interesting things there. I mean, I think it is important for every person to find, important guide stones in their own life. And if you find it through your religion and through your study of the Bible, more power to you in that there. So thank you for sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
I appreciate it there. I mean, yeah, again, as a point was brought up earlier, the idea of having a theocracy in this country is not what I'm at all in favor of. But the idea of people, therefore, taking it to the extreme that way, not finding their own power through their own faith, just doesn't make any sense either. Oftentimes, again, a balance needs to be struck in these things. So anytime someone says, well, these are the reasons I find myself making these decisions, and someone says, nah, you can't use that as your justification. Like, we're talking personal here. People can definitely find their own personal reasons to do it. In fact, that's kind of the mission in life. You got to find your own personal reasons for why you choose and decide to do things. So if you're not on with that and saying, well, you can only subscribe to mine, that's when we have issues, among many other things there. So again, thank you for sharing the perspective there. some more comments coming in. Michael Pattis, Flaco Jimenez, RJ, and more here. Tell you what, already do for that first break of this hour. I know we got a couple calls on the line. We'll get to those here in short order. So if you're on there, stay on the line. Otherwise, we'll be back with more Talk El Paso after this break. Free for All Friday is on deck. That means we will take on all subjects here. So again, if you're wanting to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Whatever you got going on in your life, it's important to take the time out and plan some of those fun weekend activities. And there's a lot of good stuff coming up, particularly in coming weeks. We've got the, of course, Sun City Craft Beer Fest, and then also in New Mexico, the New Mexico Wine Fest. And very importantly, one of our great show supporters there, Enhanced Flavors, is going to be out there. So I've been talking to you a lot about what the selection they have of extra virgin olive oils, flavored olive oils, and great balsamic vinegars. And you can try them for yourself out there. Again, they're going to be out there at the Sun City Craft Beer Festival, May 21st and 22nd, and then the New Mexico Wine Fest in the Southern New Mexico Fairgrounds, that being there in May, just a couple of weeks away now. So be sure to mark your calendars down for that, what's coming up there, because May 28th and 30th. So you got a couple of weekends planned out there for you, and you can find some great local sources for great flavors to really help spice up your life. So again, find the information on where they're going to be on their website, enhancedflavors.com, and a full selection as well. Again, that's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heads up for a crash report at I-10 westbound at Geronimo Drive. I-10 westbound at Executive Center Boulevard. A stalled vehicle. It's a truck that's blocking the right shoulder. On Paisano Drive, eastbound at Boone, police are on the scene of an accident there. Injury accident Pelicano westbound at Sunfire, and El Paso Fire, a scene of an accident eastbound on West Wyoming Avenue at Santa Fe. Carrie Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
My mom turned 65 last year, and let me tell you, helping her get her Medicare benefits squared away was not easy. She had so many choices for coverage, and most agents she spoke with just left her feeling overwhelmed and confused. She tried to do some research on her own, but Mom isn't the most tech-savvy person out there, so it was hard for her to make sense of the provider websites and paperwork. When she asked me for help, I found Chapter, and they made both of our lives so much easier. They compare thousands of Medicare plans and help seniors choose the best plan for their needs. Mom spoke to one of their advisors, and she walked her through every step of the process. Now she's on a great plan, and we both can relax. And the best part? Chapter was 100% free.
If you or your loved one wants to maximize their Medicare benefits, give Chapter a call today. 800-449-8577. Call today. 800-449-8577. That's 800-449-8577. Chapter Medicare.
On the new true crime podcast Betrayal, a woman chronicles her fairy tale romance gone horribly wrong. When her seemingly perfect husband's secret life is uncovered, it destroys her marriage, shakes their community, and ultimately sends him to prison.
Going through Spence's emails, Snapchat, whatever I could get my hands on, just a punch in the gut every single time.
Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know, every 3 seconds, there is a new victim of identity theft. A criminal could be applying for loans in your name, selling your personal information on the dark web. Now, protecting your identity can be very easy thanks to LifeLock by Norton. No one company can prevent all identity theft or monitor every transaction of every business, but LifeLock, it's simple and easy to protect yourself, and you'll save up to 25% off your first year when you go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Just use the promo code Hannity.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We're under a few pages on most of those places, but in general, look for either Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, and you can find us here. Something else that I want to mention, because as we do get in these days, we get a lot of calls, comments, and such here. If you want to leave us a message day or night, we of course do have that pound 250 system, but something now straight through the iHeartRadio app is, of course, that talkback system. You haven't heard me mention it in some of these ads on our air talking about it, but real simply, if you're over on our social media on the stream here, you can see it. It's that little red button next to the stop and play button. Looks like a microphone. You press that, you'll be able to leave a message, about 30 seconds for us, and get your comments on the air, as long as they're well cleaned. We've had some less than polite ones, gonna say. Those aren't gonna make air. Just completely understand that. And also, just gonna say flat out, gonna be having some stuff, very strong potential for it to be given away through that. So it's gonna be worth your while to make sure, A, you've got the iHeartRadio app, and B, know where to find this. Again, that's one of the views there on what it looks like, the way it also looks in addition to that. If you're actually on the page, it might be down at the bottom of it. So yeah, just get the iHeartRadio app, make sure you can find the station. I mean, KTSM AM, 690 AM, those kind of things will direct you towards us. If you can hear us through it or any of our programming, you know you're in the right place there. So just get familiar with it. Might be worth your while, what I'm saying. A lot of comments coming into the social media as well. Michael Perez, RJ, John Brazelton, Jay Visconti, Flaco Jimenez, and more tuning in, chiming in there. Also dropping those likes and reacts, which we do appreciate. Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. Michael Perez calling out attacks on Hispanics, saying it's a condescending insult, as that they're susceptible to misinformation. Getting into a little bit about that idea of, I think, that department that is being very, well, office, whatever you want to call it, that's being very rightly labeled as a way too close to a Ministry of Truth concept being proposed by the Biden administration. I don't know if they're really going to try to push through with that, because I haven't heard anyone, regardless of side of here. I mean, sure, disinformation is bad. I think we can all agree on that point. But who is the arbiter of what is truth or not? I have a lot of discomfort level with anyone in a political capacity being anywhere near that. I mean, at least with private or, non-official ones. And a fact checker is often a dirty word with some people, but at least you can have an ability to understand their biases and not having them presented as objective truth when, Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call if you're wanting to chime in during the show, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Ben on the west side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, how you doing, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Interesting thing that I heard today. Mayorkas the other day testified in front of Congress that we don't have an adequate amount of funding to address the border crisis.
What a concept.
But we're sending $50 billion to Ukraine, which nearly doubles the money spent on the border now.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the Biden administration's answer to this problem? Have you heard?
I've heard a lot of platitudes in the meantime, but
they're going to divert the costs at the border by taking money away from the VA. Funding from nurses and doctors administering to our vets and giving it to the migrants at the border. So we can take $50 billion that we don't have and send it to Ukraine. Once again, everything comes first for others, and America is second. Let's go, Brandon. It's time to impeach Joe Biden.
I fully expect that there will probably be some proceedings based on that point. At the very least, probably hearings, investigations, if the trajectory, as much has been predicted, ahead of the whole Roe v. Wade thing coming back to the forefront, was going to happen with the midterm. I don't necessarily see that totally diverting it. There's still a whole lot of ticked off people about there, even if we are looking at some maybe additional voter activation, those that had otherwise gotten disillusioned with this current administration on the left. But, the cloudy crystal ball is even cloudier once we start getting into issues like this that I've got anyway. So I'm not going to totally make a call on that, but I still see a very similar trajectory even to before that of very strong possibilities of, at the very least, the Senate. I see the Senate gets given some of the personalities up for election there. Arizona, particularly, Senator Kelly out there seems ripe for, well, challenge. I mean, we've already talked with some of those, even on this show, contenders for that. So I expect that there will be at least one seat flipped within the Senate. And that would, of course, change that balance and completely change that. But, of course, when it comes to impeachment and even investigation proceedings like that, control of the House is probably the most significant thing. That's why, among other things, Democrats have been able to move forward with the whole January 6th investigations, because they hold the subpoena and all that power with the committees with control of the House. So that's probably, for what you're talking about there, the more important factor to look at. But even a split House would be, well, throwing a wrench in the administration's plans, which I think a lot of people are still probably more interested in than anything else. A check on the power is, I think, a definite point that's being brought up.
Andrew, do you really think that it's a good idea to take money away from the VA?
Oh, no, that's a completely separate point. I was making there. Yeah, it's a bad idea.
Talk about impeachment aside,
yeah.
Everything. And the Republicans should be in arms about this. I mean, they should be outraged, but not one word's being said about it.
I know that there are a couple of places. I mean, there have been certain things put up by, I know Senator Cruz has put out some releases back in April is the most recent one I was able to find right now on that point. And there have been some other, some representatives, some House members, Fleischman and Womack, amongst others. They have put out some bills here, but I will say it hasn't been the most forefront issue about it. I mean, probably not to the level you're talking about wanting from there. But again, that's been a pretty busy news cycle recently, so I guess I'm not totally surprised it's fallen off from the top of the mention here. But yeah, as a general concept, to really delve into it, sounds pretty like something you should flush down the toilet here.
Yeah, I think so too. And it is a matter that, ask for this is for Raul. I'd like to say, since Biden's been in office, Biden's policies has done nothing but make other things worse. The lawlessness at the border, soaring inflation, rising energy prices, rising food prices, and ignoring the China threat, and causing a major, almost a threat of nuclear war with a country that has more nukes than we do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that threat has always been there. And any time, even before this administration, Vladimir Putin has talked about wanting to do it with the SALT treaty, which, of course, he did, managed to get to in the, end of the last administration, if I've got my timing in mind correct here. Yeah, it's always been concerned when it comes to that here. I know Carter is mentioned a lot when it comes to this administration, but again, with just a little bit further back historical perspective, I'm getting a bit more from kind of like the other administration during the Great Depression here is what I'm really thinking of, because it's a little bit closer to that. I'm not remembering the president's name offhand here. It'll come to me in a second, but it was not great. And Hoover. Yeah, I was thinking of the right guy. Hoover, the president overseeing a good part of the Great Depression here. And not necessarily that the guy was a bad person overall, but his inability to deal with what was happening at the time, doomed his administration. It didn't go real well for everyone else being affected by it in America at the time.
You don't think this is unprecedented? The threat that Biden and his administration has brought the United States to, this is unprecedented. Never in the history have we been put in this kind of position.
Well, okay, I have said before that I don't think history repeats itself, but it does rhyme. So I guess I see shades of this here, even though the issues, the threat of thermonuclear war is definitely not something that was present during the Hoover administration. Fully agree with you on that point here. So there are certainly unprecedented parts of it, but again, I see similarities in previous chapters of our history, ones that I will note we did navigate successfully through, but it did necessitate, in the case of Hoover, a change of administration before things could really move on. But also, there were larger, economic and societal changes happening at the same time, some of which, given all the stuff that is continuing to happen all throughout this, things keep moving very rapidly in a whole lot of realms. it's hard to predict what might happen there either. So, yeah, we have still some challenges that are unprecedented. Fully agree with you on there, but I still see similarities.
Everything at once. I mean, there's been other times where we've had, one or two of these things, but not this many, not to the point where it's actually destroying our country.
Okay, again.
Would you agree with that? I mean, we're talking about every bit of our economy, every bit, the risk that we made and the sacrifices we have to make in order to take care of other people. This is not America first. This is America last, and it's got to stop.
And again, I'll agree with you certainly in part here, but I think that having most of the people alive during the Great Depression no longer with us, at least as adults, really feeling the full impact of all of that here. I mean, that was just some of the stories I remember hearing from my family about them managing to be in a slightly better situation, but really having to take care of essentially the rest of the neighborhood in some of those cases. I think we underestimate how bad that was at that point in time, but things are different now. Again, fully agree with you that things are, to say it's exactly the same and we made it through there, therefore we'll be fine now, is a head in the sand kind of moment. And to say that we shouldn't therefore challenge these head on would also be a mistake. So again, I'll agree with you in part here that we got serious issues, but I think focusing on solutions as much as possible, even if we have some dead weight in certain political offices, still should be our general focus.
Then what is Biden doing to alleviate all these problems? I haven't heard one thing from the Biden administration to alleviate any of this stuff. Ask Raul, please. Raul, if you're listening, what is Biden doing to help this? I mean, they're not calling it a crisis about the formula. They're not calling it a crisis about inflation. They're not calling, gasoline crisis, rising food prices. They're not calling that a crisis. What is a crisis? One, and two is what is our president or his administration doing to alleviate our pain?
Well, let's just say, in short, and my thoughts on that, it seems like we're being reactionary. Well, not we, the administration is being reactionary to a lot of these issues constantly. I mean, it feels like even if you don't think of the fires totally going out, that it's being basically beat down for a bit and then a focus onto something else, but it never really goes out either. So, yeah, I think there's, again, a lot of frustration with this, and it's not even just a partisan thing. I mean, there was a whole lot of people, I do recall, the people that I know that chose to vote for the current administration to put it into office, saying that, well, he's not perfect, but we'll hold him accountable. And good luck with that as a concept in any time, because you've already given the person the power and they have it for several years to come then. But then just being disillusioned with it, saying, oh, well, I don't even think I'll vote anymore. And that's like, okay, now you're just throwing in the towel. And that's, I guess, anytime that it comes up like this and people say, oh, well, then why even bother? That's what ends up bugging me the most. But that's more of a personal issue here. Not necessarily your fault there, Ben. But I do find it frustrating because it's not going to take less people being involved. It's going to take more people being involved if we have any real hope of starting to deal with some of these things here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. Tell you what, we went on there for a bit. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got calls on the line. If you're there, stay there, because we'll certainly get there. If you want to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. The family of a 75-year-old woman who was shot and killed by police are moving forward with legal action against the Las Cruces Police Department. The family of Emilia Baca made that announcement yesterday during a news conference. As we reported, police say Baca's daughter called 911 back on April 16th after she says her mother threatened to kill her. When an officer arrived, Baca was found holding a pair of knives but did not comply with the commands to drop them. The family said she had dementia. The officer then shot his gun twice, hitting Baca. The family's attorney says they are filing 2 lawsuits, one in the state and the other in federal court. The attorney added that a jury will determine how much the family should be compensated for their loss. We're working to learn more about a shooting that sent one man to the hospital in Northeast El Paso. Shots were fired just before 9:30 last night on Guadalupe Drive near McGoffin Middle School. Police say the victim was found on Diana Drive, not too far from the scene of the shooting. The man's injuries are believed to be non-life-threatening.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
El Paso Freeway's looking pretty good for your Friday so far. 10 westbound at Geronimo, an accident reported. A stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, I-10 westbound at Executive Center Boulevard. El Paso fire at a medical incident, Gateway North, just before McCombs. And an accident with police on the scene, Alameda Avenue at Horizon Boulevard and Socorro. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
We'll talk about trading in these gusty winds for unseasonably hot weather, plus when we could see our first triple-digit day of the year. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
Are you wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it. My name is Dr. Moira Salaji. I'm the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and over to get a COVID vaccine because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
It's important to know what's going on, especially around the world.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of 2 people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming over there on all of these here. Just to name a few: Kathy Codry, Edgar Ortiz, John Brazelton, RJ, on Grimm, John Hertz, Flaco Jimenez, Andrew Zignorant, Michael Pettis, if I didn't say that already, and a whole lot more. Also dropping those likes and reacts, which you do appreciate. Robbie Flores, Monaco Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. And Kevin Wins also chiming in right now. And so all of this stuff going on, and comments, and we also got those calls as well. That number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Because Friday is the day on which we do all of these things, taking on all those comments, all these calls, all these issues here. Catherine Codry now saying she's unimpressed or fed up, actually, with this administration here. John Brazelton with I've said something very similar in the past, that the Biden administration is the third term of Obama. Joe is doing all the things Obama wanted to do but couldn't because he also wanted to be popular. Yeah, I long expected that the well, any Biden administration would be a warmed over policies. Again, third term of the Obama administration, or just a warm over a defrost setting reheating of anything coming from, well, Biden, the Obama administration for the Biden administration. And that has borne out pretty well, along with a lot of other commentary. John Hurt saying, wait until parents can't feed their kids, it'll be very bad. Yeah, I would fully agree with that. Flocky Meta saying, hey, well, Liz, she's not tweeting. I mean, that wasn't totally a fan of all the tweets, but yeah, if you're going to trade one directly for the other, well, why don't you do your own estimation here? And a whole lot more questions about the next vax and all that good stuff here. Michael Pat is pointing out food riots happening in other countries. Certainly possible. And, well, I've been saying for a minute now, keep your hatches battened down. That advice from me has not changed here for a minute, but let's get back to those phone lines right now. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Maria Coleman also chiming in. Let's get to those calls right now. We do have Mike on the west side here with us right now. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for taking my call. I'd like to encourage everybody that's listening to protest their property appraisals.
Oh, yes.
It's been out of control. The county made many bad decisions, and so they lost revenue by shutting down the economy, and now they're going to punish the homeowner for their poor decisions, and nobody should stand for that. And so Monday is the deadline to do it.
Right.
And people can do it online, and people need to mark it on the form when they send it in, or online form. They need to ask for the evidence that the county appraisal district, central appraisal district used to appraise the house, because they don't go to the house to appraise it. They use a formula with area photographs and drone footage, and they look at pricing in the neighborhood. But that evidence is really critical in fighting the appraisal. And I'm going to post a couple of links to resources to the Facebook page, and if you want to put them out, that would be great. Another thing that's a good thing when you fight the property taxes is take pictures of the house, especially of anything that's bad about the house. For example, if you have a drainage issue, or if you have a bad roof or needs paint or siding, or whatever the case may be, because they don't know that, and you can use all that to lower the valuation of the house, and therefore, of course, lowering the taxes. And once again, the deadline is Monday, so people, should really jump on it and send that message to the county that we're not going to take it laying down.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, protesting it if you've got the justification, the backing, or I mean, I know in some people's cases, people who even commented or called in having gone up about 50% over the last just couple of years. Yeah, it can be significant. I know there actually last weekend, in fact, there were protests and people signing up, people for more information, for groups, that kind of thing. Once one happened at San Jacinto Plaza last weekend. So I know this is more than just a few people being mad kind of issue. Like, this will affect a lot of people, at least the way it used to be done. Okay, not a homeowner myself, maybe working on it. We'll see how this all works out with the economy. But that I know there were friends who previous eras and iterations of these property evaluations going on, it was based on, okay, they did property improvements and closed the porch, insulated it, did that kind of thing, changing square footage, those kind of substantive improvements. But to my understanding, a lot of this time around is just on the sale price in general. Again, like you said, evaluating the rest of the neighborhood. So it might not even be based on anything actually on your property at all, just kind of general conditions. So pointing out these kind of things, it doesn't hurt to at least look into it. And yeah, you're like you said, Monday is the deadline, or 30 days after when you received your notice here. So keep that in mind as well. Make sure you got your dates straight, because sure, there might be some possibilities if you take advantage of it. But if you ignore it and say, well, I won't worry about it, then you know what's going to happen then.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking my call.
I appreciate it. No, it's a good point there.
Have a good weekend.
You as well. Have a good one there. Appreciate the point in the call. I mean, again, the property valuation is the setting of a stage. The full play of what you'll pay in taxes will then be set by the many taxing entities, city, county, school districts. If you're in one of those water improvement districts, EPCC, all those kind of things will be a very important part of it. Ion Grim making another interesting point here. Make sure to ask for the addresses and pictures all the other properties they use to appraise the news value. Then go and take your own pictures of those properties. Big plus, you can point out the discrepancies. It's not just square footage. Yeah, I mean, there's quite the formula that is going into it these days here. So Michael Pett is posting, like you mentioned, over on the YouTube stream, the comment stream, a YouTube video, I should say, of a couple of these things. So yeah, definitely check this out. Do your due diligence. If you don't know, well, you don't know. I know it sounds like a tautology, but it's true. If you haven't looked at this at all, you don't know what even the possibilities are. So it behooves you as a otherwise informed citizen, hopefully as you are listening to this program, to know what's going on and to deal with it appropriately, what makes sense for you and yours here. Let's take one more call before we hit this next break. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to some of the comments from a gentleman that just was talking about the monies being moved out of the VA because of my uncles are saying they don't have enough money for the border.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. What a joke. And then I was reading that the Treasury Department, and I'm going to tie into his comments, the Treasury Department is now investigating Governor Abbott's use of federal funds from COVID for the border.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that he misappropriated or misused the funds, and he's not allowed to do that. So I'm thinking to myself, and one of the things they said that money was supposed to use for public health and safety funds.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Governor Abbott is building a wall to keep illegal immigrants from coming in who are not being tested from COVID, and now we know they're bringing tuberculosis, but that's not public health and safety.
Right.
But yeah, you have states like Florida, $140 million for a luxury hotel. New York, $12 million to renovate the Yankee Stadium. Alabama, $400 million for new prisons. Colorado, $6.6 million to replace 2 new golf courses, and the list goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 individuals who spearheaded this investigation by the U.S. Treasury, you got it, our representative Escobar and Castro from San Antonio. So they're asking the court the federal the Treasury Department to investigate whether or not those monies were properly used. And apparently they're stating that the Governor Abbott used about $1 billion in coronavirus funds to fund the Operation Lone Star. That Operation Lone Star is all about public health and safety and sovereignty. So I don't know, well, I do know why she's doing it. You know, Beto is there, and he's benefiting from all these little wounds into Governor Abbott. But they're okay with the states and the teachers. The teachers union in California used it for bonuses. The teachers unions use it to put charter schools and private schools out of business. But that's okay. Let's not, investigate that. So this is just, like I say, the epitome of hypocrisy. And for them to now say they don't have enough funding, that they have to take it from the VA, well, why don't they recoup some of the money from the other states that took all that money out? And then the second issue I was going to mention is today they're reporting that the state of Texas won their lawsuit against an illegal immigrant for trespassing.
Mm-hmm.
And the jury was composed of 6 Hispanic surnamed individuals.
Yep.
And they deliberated for 20 minutes. And the 39-year-old that was convicted of trespassing, apparently in his 20s, had already served jail time or prison time here in the United States. And afterwards, he was given a choice. Do you want to go back to Honduras or do you want to serve out your time? And he chose to go back to Honduras. So 19 years later, he decides he wants to come back into the United States, and he's one of the ones that was caught trespassing onto other people's property.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a feather in Governor Abbott's hat regarding charging illegal immigrants with trespassing on private property. And the third thing I was going to talk about is, I think everybody recalls that last legislative session, Governor Abbott signed a bill that was put on his desk, which prohibits China from purchasing any property in Texas and prohibiting them from using our electric grid because of what they had done in the Del Rio area, that acreage that they had next to Laughlin Air Force Base, and they were very strategically placed where they could observe our border activities. Well, it seems that China is using Oklahoma as their go-to place now. They've apparently purchased 8,500 acres of land, and 80 of it, they have 500 structures or so on this piece of land, and they are growing marijuana. And they're connected with Mexico. So they grow the marijuana, and then they send it to Mexico, and then Mexico brings it back for trafficking. And of course, they're saying that Oklahoma does have laws on the books to prohibit this, but you know what? Laws all have loopholes, right?
Usually.
And there was owners of some farmland that were telling the newspapers or the journalists that they actually have Chinese knock on their front door, come in with a suitcase full of money, asking them for their farmland. And they're not doing anything for the farmland. What they're doing, they're saying, is devaluing the value of our farmland. I mean, Congress has to get on this. I mean, Governor Abbott did something for the state of Texas, but we need to do something nationwide. I mean, to have 80 acres of marijuana and working with the Mexican cartel, maybe that's why they wanted to be next to Del Rio, observe all our border operations. This is really dangerous. And you recall that in White City, Oregon, we discussed that too several weeks ago. They had 5 industrial warehouses, and it was at that time that was China, Russia, and Mexico growing, packing, and distributing throughout the U.S. and Europe. So, I mean, this is dangerous. And then here we have Biden, who just stumbles through every crisis, I guess. Every crisis that he creates. And I wanted to push back on you described serious issues. We have grave issues, Andrew.
Fair enough.
They are so grave. Like yesterday, I said, we are imploding, and people have got to go vote. Vote our congresswoman out. Here she is investigating our governor, who is protecting our sovereignty and protecting the citizens of the state of Texas, and indirectly the whole United States. Stopping fentanyl, stopping sex trafficking, stopping tuberculosis and all the other diseases that now we're learning are coming into our country via our border with COVID. And then they're reporting today that 1,000 illegal immigrants were processed here in El Paso. Isn't that amazing? That's what's happening in, where is it, in the Rio Grande Valley? They said that it was open and they were doing that. They were going into Mexico and bringing in these illegal immigrants. And the Border Patrol said it was to clear the backlog. Well, that's what's happening here in El Paso. We can no longer, like this gentleman said, we can't close our eyes. We can't look the other way, because this isn't going to get solved by us not being proactive. And the reason somebody said that President Biden is always reacting. Well, he's reacting to things that he's ignoring, just like he ignored Afghanistan. They had 3 months to prepare for that. They knew it was going to happen. They ignored President Trump's transition team, and consequently, we still have Americans left behind in Afghanistan.
I mean, yeah, you bring up a lot of important issues there, but tell you what, we got to take that next break right now, because we are going to end up scrunching it at the end of the hour here. But we'll come back and talk more about these issues. And yeah, I'll go fair point about the seriousness of the issue, the gravity of the issues, as you're referring to it there. So thank you for the point in the call, but we just got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk more about this, get more calls on the line. Again, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We'll start with stop-and-go traffic on the 10 westbound on your Friday commute from Hawkins to Paisano. Westbound on the 10, it's a 27-minute delay right now. Accident reported Border Highway eastbound at Fonseca. In the Low Valley out in Socorro, police on the scene of a crash Alameda Avenue at Horizon. And Paisano eastbound at Boone, police on the scene of an accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with a new way to enjoy our beautiful planet. Energy consumption is a primary contributor to a changing climate, producing around 27% of greenhouse gases in the United States. Save money and energy at home by turning off your computer completely before you go to bed. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Hey, it's Maura Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso. Whenever we got days like today, just flies by. We're already done for that first hour right now, but don't worry, we got a whole nother hour of Talk El Paso coming up right after this. We just got to hit it for that top of the hour news break here. So we got a couple calls, few calls in the line here right now. A lot of comments coming in. Keep those going, because we'll be checking back on all of that here right after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Oh, it's a busy day, and we'll keep talking about all this stuff. Again, Free for All Friday is on deck, taking on all those subjects, all your comments, all the calls, well, as much as we can cram in within the couple hours of the show, which is never quite as much as you might think. But anyway, got to take the top of the hour news break, so stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We'll start with stop-and-go traffic on the 10 westbound on your Friday commute from Hawkins to Paisano. Westbound on the 10, it's a 27-minute delay right now. Accident reported Border Highway eastbound at Fonseca. In the Low Valley out in Socorro, police on the scene of a crash Alameda Avenue at Horizon. And Paisano eastbound at Boone, police on the scene of an accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? I'm Ernest Grant, President of the American Nurses Association, and we want you to know we trust the COVID vaccines for ourselves, for our patients, for our kids. So should you.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You know about their great deals on windows and doors, and now the Window Depot has everything for your complete home remodel. The Window Depot is a one-stop warehouse with the lowest prices and biggest inventory on in-stock laminate, butcher block, granited quartz countertops, plus flooring and tile to finish your project. They also offer a huge selection of in-stock cabinets, or their designers can special order your cabinetry in a variety of colors and styles. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, but they also offer online ordering and no contact delivery. The Window Depot, more than a window store.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit stoptextsstopwrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A House panel is investigating the nationwide baby formula shortage. The Oversight Committee is pressing manufacturers on steps they're taking to address the issue. Democrats, including Committee Chair Carolyn Maloney, requested documents about the shortage from the heads of 4 formula companies. President Biden says he talked with the leaders of Finland and Sweden as they may join NATO.
We had a good conversation and they expressed their interest and desires relating to security.
He did not elaborate during a chat with reporters at the White House. Finland and Sweden are reportedly angling to join NATO after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russian President Putin has threatened Finland with unspecified retaliation if it joins NATO. Wall Street is closing sharply higher, but still posting losses for the week. Stocks rallied with the Nasdaq gaining nearly 4% as investors snapped up battered tech shares. So far, the Dow and S&P 500 have avoided bear territory despite the recent market slide. Chris Rock continues to tiptoe around the infamous Oscars slap while out on his current comedy tour. Lisa Taylor reports.
The Times of London reported the comedian quipped during his show at Royal Albert Hall Thursday, "I'm okay, if anybody was wondering. I got most of my hearing back." While out on the Ego Death World tour, Rock has joked about waiting for a Netflix special to discuss the incident that saw Will Smith strike him across the face on stage at the Academy Awards. At Thursday's show, he joked, "Anyone who says words hurt has never been punched in the face." Smith was banned from attending the Oscars for the next decade following the slap. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Delaware State University is filing a formal civil rights complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice over a traffic stop in Georgia. The move comes after DSU's women's lacrosse team had their bus and personal belongings searched last month. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Elon Musk now says his deal to buy Twitter is on hold.
In a tweet, Elon Musk says his buyout of Twitter is temporarily on hold over a report of fake accounts or high-profile accounts losing thousands of followers in a single day. Musk offered $44 billion to buy the social network, but it and other tech giants have been hit hard in the stock market in recent weeks, and Twitter is now valued closer to $35 billion. Despite the online announcement from Musk, it's not clear if he's taken any official action to end the takeover bid. I'm Rory O'Neill.
An asteroid bigger than the Empire State Building will have a brush with Earth this weekend. NASA says the potentially dangerous space rock will fly by our planet Sunday evening at more than 18,000 miles per hour. They describe it as potentially dangerous because it will get within 3.5 million miles of Earth. New York City is starting college savings accounts for kindergartners. Scott Pringle reports.
The city opened 529 college savings accounts for just about every kindergartner and made an initial deposit of $100 in each. This will continue for every kindergarten class. Deborah Ellen Glickstein is in charge of the NYC Kids Rise Save for College program. She hopes the initial deposit from the city will encourage families to save for college.
So our goals are to build significant financial assets with and for participating families and communities, and to ensure that the students are getting reinforced expectations of success from every part of their lives.
Research shows those with a college savings account are 3 times more likely to go on to higher education.
The Bundys could be making their way back to Americans' TV screens. An animated version of Married with Children is in development at Sony Pictures Television. Ed O'Neill, Katie Segal, Christina Applegate, and David Faustino have all signed on to reprise their roles in a voiceover capacity. The original series ran from 1987 to 1997 on Fox. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Spring. That's spring. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeart Radio app. That's Red Pilled America.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690 KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing? I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to comment on the show, a lot of ways to get at us because, well, today is the day when we take on all of that. Free for All Friday is on deck for you, meaning we are taking your comments and calls throughout both hours of the program. Got to a lot in that first hour. Now in our 5 o'clock hour, we'll be doing it all over again and a whole lot more. Phone line's full up at the moment, but if you want to try to squeeze in that way, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Calvin Williams asking over on the comment section here that the magic word for this hour is indeed spring here. So if you've been catching those at the top of the hour, they run through, well, just about our show every day. Be another set happening next week. But yeah, 9 a.m. to, well, 5 p.m. You can find those numbers to win that a grand in your hand. So be sure to check that out on the website here. Just go to ktsmradio.com, enter that keyword, and you'll be entered to win there. So yeah, it was spring. Since you asked, be so kind as to answer it here. So more comments coming in on a lot of this here. Maria Coleman saying that declaring that we should disperse the stockpile of baby formula at the border. It would help some American families. Also, it may discourage those with infants and toddlers not to cross. Freebies encourage people. They aren't deterrents. We are taxed to provide for strangers, but are unable to feed our own babies here. I guess it is a difference in when they're being held, because the way we are then holding them, essentially, if it's not for the, without something in place like either essentially catch and release, in which case you're on your own, or the Remain in Mexico policy in place. Therefore, the U.S. government then has a duty to care for those in their custody. So, not saying that we should starve them, but yeah, if there is an overage, there definitely needs to be maybe a reevaluation. Though I'm also just going to say I'm going to be a little bit dubious about anything kept in these hot South Texas conditions for too long. But we'll see here. Kevin Williams letting know he has no marketing experience, but would love a job in it. Absolutely here. Some more comments coming in as well about qualifications of certain elected officials. But Catherine Codry definitely agreeing with it here. We must use our voting power to unseat all the treason as hacks. Yeah, being part of voting and going out and doing it, yeah, definitely just, it's not the only solution, but it definitely has to be a part of any solution. I just don't see it working any other way here. But let's get back to those points and those calls on the line here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Let's get with Kevin on the east side right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm not ragging on the VA. They have done a lot for me, but they're working under constraints of their budgets. And the specialty clinic that I attended this week. I saw one doctor. He's very good. Saw him for 1 hour. He said, get a follow-up with me. You need it. Get it soon, please. I called up today to get that follow-up, and it will not be available until the 3rd of June. I understand the problems the VA is undergoing, but my point is, please don't take away any money from the VA. I mean, we all have our stories, us veterans.
Oh, yeah.
And I just can't see that, especially when there are other things going on, too, that they're trying to cut away from, regular Americans, is this baby formula thing. If you want to get a look at it, go up to Fort Bliss and go behind the Soto Gym, and you will see the parking lot there. And there is what used to be a field, an athletic field, which has been all fenced off in green fencing. And behind that field, buses come in and drop off people. Who they are, I don't know. Where they're going, they pick them up too. And there is restricted access. 2 people we know work in this particular facility taking care of these children you were talking about, brought in by the illegals. And not only that, but a minor point, the parking lot that used to be reserved for people going to the gym has been cut. So it's about 1/3 as big as it used to be. And there are 3 handicap parking spaces available for us retirees and for active duty. Whereas in the place that we're not allowed to go into, there are also handicap slots, people who work there. And I mean, come on, what is this set up for? This is supposed to be for Fort Bliss or Department of Health and Human Services. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Well, sure thing. Thank you for the point on the call. I guess, particularly on that VA issue, I guess I feel about it very similarly the way I do Border Patrol, CBP, those DHS agencies, very prevalent in our area. I do not have much of a gripe, if at all. I mean, individual circumstances may vary, but in general, rank and file, so to speak, all my issues do not originate with them, because the people being in that work and forced to do the job under the conditions that they are in either of these circumstances, the fact that they're doing it and doing it admirably as possible, given the circumstances. I mean, yeah, having not served myself, plenty of veteran friends, and just the stories about, you need urgent appointments, that'll be 6 months. I mean, so I was surprised that they said June for you, frankly, even given these constraints. So again, it all starts with the top in a lot of these circumstances about how it's being administered, how it's being dealt with, the priorities being pushed down. And in general, the people on the ground essentially are doing the best they can and they can do what with very constrained circumstances. But reading further into this, recalling what we talked about, because it's been kind of on the back burner for a couple of months now after that first came out, the idea of diverting VA resources. I mean, sure, the simple way to refer to it is money, but I would actually call it a little bit more potentially disruptive than that, because it's not just money. It's not just saying, oh, by the way, you're cutting your funding here. They literally want to use then the medical resources, the doctors, nurses, etc., for this purpose. So I dare say this would be more disruptive than just budgetary shifts. Now, again, a simple way to refer to that might be as, effectively this much value is being taken out of the VA. But again, I think that's almost a misnomer for what that real impact would be, because if you're taking away literal manpower, the ability of people within the staff of it to do things, that I see as being maybe even worse, I dare say. I mean, I'm not an expert analysis on this, but that's my back of the hand notes kind of perspective on this as it is. So I see that as potentially being even worse. Just have to say on my own here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. Let's see if we can get to one more call here before we hit that next break. Now, again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Raul in Northeast on the line here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. President Biden inherited a very sick and divided country and a crashed economy from Trump. The country was sicker and ever more divided because of the decisions, behavior, and rhetoric of Trump. And while President Biden was not my preferred candidate, those would have been Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, President Biden, unlike Trump, works full-time, and he has surrounded himself with wise and seasoned advisors, not his kids or a bunch of sycophants and swamp creatures. And unlike Trump, who regularly bragged about how smart he is and how he knew more about everything than everybody, President Biden knows he's not the smartest person in the room. And he hasn't gone golfing once since he became president. Trump golfed for 1/4 of his presidency, including throughout the pandemic. And unlike Trump, President Biden listens to his president's daily briefing. And he doesn't spend 2 hours every morning having his makeup put on and his hair done, like Mr. Macho Man, the Orange Oaf, Trump did. Now, I just heard one of your previous callers say that we're going through unprecedented times. He's got that right. We suffered the unprecedented attack on the Constitution in Congress in a coup on the Capitol on January 6th, planned and incited by the failed incumbent who lost a popular vote again. 140 officers injured from 1,000 charges of assault. While Trump violated his oath, guilty of dereliction and desertion of duty, doing nothing for 3 hours, ignoring the pleas from his daughter and staff to call off his mob. Unprecedented, absolutely. Unprecedented, impeached 2 times, the second for insurrection. Unprecedented, a former president failing and flailing and drowning in a sea of criminal investigations and lawsuits. Now, to El Paso's education situation, only 18% of El Paso students performed at grade level in 2021 in reading and math. And that's compared to 37% in 2019. This is according to the El Paso Times report they came out with. Now, I know a little bit about education. As I say, my mother was a teacher. I have cousins who are teachers. I was married to a professor of teaching for many, many years. And I'll tell you what I saw in the school districts when I substitute taught and when I did my student teaching many years ago in Socorro, in El Paso, in Kennetua, I was impressed with what I saw. And I went to private schools. Private Catholic schools. I was impressed with what they were teaching the kids, the facilities that they had, the hard work of the teachers. What I know that teachers can't control is the students that they get and the home environments of these students. Most of these students are poor. They're on school lunch, and many of them, if not the majority of them, come from broken homes with no dad in the home. And so a teacher can't control that, what's going on at home. And if you end up with a 2 or 3 or 4 of those kids in your classroom, they can be totally disruptive. It's very, very difficult to deal with a child who was not taught respect at home. So I think the parents have to be involved. If they want their kids to do well, they got to be in the loop. And if they're willing to be in the loop, I think they'll get their tax dollars from the school districts here in El Paso.
I mean, people being involved, I think the worst outcome that we've seen, and I've unfortunately seen this in a variety of ways, never been an educator myself, but I've been often involved in secondary programs, summer programs, after school, that kind of a thing, talking about, okay, what, focusing on things like that youth leadership conference specifically, I've been involved with out in Arizona, focused on, constitutional education, free enterprise system, the American government, and the amount of times that kids are just saying, I had no idea about these and these are like, rising juniors and seniors in a lot of cases. It's disturbing is almost too gentle for it because it's more existential than that. The things that aren't being taught here. So the point there being that the fact that there is a whole lot of people that are just like, well, I send them off to school and that should deal with everything. They get lunch there. I don't have to worry about them in the morning, the afternoon, and everything else in their life is taken care of, is one of probably the worst things that is. I mean, we talk about a lot of things that are very important and bad in their own rights, but again, almost existentially to the future of this country is the lack of education on very basic and very important concepts of our youth, very much including the involvement or lack thereof of parents. Now, of course, you juxtapose this with how there have been some parents getting called essentially terrorists in their own rights for being involved with school boards. Yeah, some have taken it too far. Whenever you get to threatening public officials, it's usually a bad plan. But saying that you don't have any right to be involved in the child's education, yeah, there's a difference between someone saying, no, my kid will not be taught this part of the curriculum, you have to customize it for them, as opposed to, wait, what about these concepts we're teaching? Are we really preparing them for success in life? Labeling those as the same thing, definitely a mistake. And anyone who is just saying, I mean, I see it, I guess, just way too prevalent in this country in this day, is the idea that, well, if the government says or doesn't say so, how could it possibly be bad and or good, vice versa? Because there's so many people that have just outsourced their, essentially their critical thinking to others and saying, well, I guess I don't have to worry about that. They'll take care of it. And that just generally does not bear out. So sure, a lot of problems with education, but you're not going to find me arguing much against parents being involved with that point here. Okay, we got to take that next break right now. So again, thank you for the point in the call here. That's what we do on these Fridays here. So if you want to chime in on your own, that number to do so is 915-544-5876. 915-544-KTSM. Got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more of the comments, more of the issues, more of everything going on the lines here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM. Speaking of important things to take care of, well, in another way, anyway, you got to make sure you take care of yourself. Self-care is quite the buzzword lately, but it has its own merits because if you're not taking care of yourself, who else is going to do it for you? That's why I trust in my own way that is self-care, if you really want to think about it, whenever I go to Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa. Because, again, the name really says a lot of it here. Barber salon, combining the arts of barbering with some of the services of a great salon, plus even some spa services here. They've got the full list of everything they offer up over on their website, gentsrepublic.com, gentsrepublic.com, or of course you can give them a call to set your next appointment by calling 915-532-3000, 915-532-3000. I had mentioned that talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. Let's just say there may be some great things that you can get through that, participating through that way and getting from them here in the near future. So make sure to download the iHeartRadio app, visit them online. Again, gentsrepublic.com. Among other things, get Dad what he really wants for this Father's Day. It's coming up before you think. Don't let it sneak up on you. Get your gift card and or appointment here today. Again, gentsrepublic.com. That's GENTS Republic.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound in Reynolds, a multi-vehicle crash is blocking 3 lanes. Only the far left and the right exit lane is open. And there's a backup on the I-10 westbound from Hawkins to Paisano right now. It's a 53-minute delay. Gateway Boulevard at Airway, an accident reported. And an injury accident, Oregon Street at 3rd Avenue downtown. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
It's a grand in your hand.
$1,000.
$1,000. No NFTs or ESGs. It's $1,000 straight to you.
That is awesome.
Listen every hour from 9 through 5 weekdays for your chance to win.
A grand in your hand is brought to you by Approved Auto. Ride out in your new ride in less than an hour. Get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell a deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Auto, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply. And then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath & Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Now Martha Stewart for Skechers. When I make a dish or embark on a craft project, I always use the finest, most fabulous ingredients and materials. Which is why, when it comes to footwear, I love Skechers. Because Skechers is the comfort technology company and uses the most luxurious, innovative materials and designs to make wondrously comfortable footwear with all the fits and features like Arch Fit and Skechers' world-famous air-cooled memory foam. It's exactly the way I'd make shoes.
Find Skechers at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Research shows listeners don't like it when ads interrupt their music. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance, we made this ad optional. If you want to skip this ad, remove your left earphone. Liberty Mutual customizes home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
If you're missing this informative ad, you must not wasting your cash.
It's the easy and smart way to save.
Now it's all been said, so if that your phone was out, put it back in your head.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to get out the show, particularly on a day like today. It is Free for All Friday. I mean, we're taking on all those comments, calls, and everything related to it here throughout the program. So I've been doing a lot of it already. If you want to try to squeeze on that line, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back up with the calls here in just a second. A lot of comments coming in here. Ian Grimm saying that, yeah, she pretty well called it here. And I did remember that comment from earlier, popped it up in the middle there. If you're watching over on the social media, we often pop up those comments so you can see them on screen for yourself here. And that one seemed relevant. Also, chiming in, Barbara Carrasco, RJ, Kathy Kodry, Edgar Ortiz, and a lot more tuning in, chiming in if you want to do so. Calvin Williams a little bit earlier, among many others. Again, today is the day when we go through each and all of this as much as possible. We can squeeze in 2 hours. It's never quite as much as you think, but we work out as best we can here. So back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Frankie and Messia on the line here. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, Andrew, happy Friday. Right out of the box, let me say something. Yesterday, I made an erudite comment, almost like a public service announcement, on how you could get around this shortage of formula. And what happens as soon as I hang up the phone? Here comes Barbara, and right out of her mouth, bang, just bang. The first thing, it's the federal government's problem. They did this. Oh, yeah? What, Biden or his minions dropped a bunch of bacteria in Abbott Labs' formula? Give it up, Barbara. Now, my next point, precedent. I want to talk about precedent. Right now, the 1-6 committee is talking about subpoenaing these 5 slimeball insurrectionist, seditionist Republicans, right? And here's the thing I'm going to say. If they don't show up, they need to go to jail. And if they don't go to jail, that means every other single human being in the United States of America gets a subpoena. Guess what? I'm not going to answer it because you didn't put Kevin McCrudney in jail. Then I'm not going to answer it. If you don't do it to him, you ain't going to do it to me. Now, what do you think of them apples, everybody?
I mean, I think there's a slight difference in you getting subpoenaed and these requests for comments. I mean, they're not exactly my reading of the actual documents from the January 6th committee you're talking about there is not as a for your involvement of, but simply as a believe they may have information relevant to their investigation into such. So if they were to not respond to this, my understanding is that they would be, well, held in contempt of Congress, which is slightly different than any subpoena you or I are, well, likely to get, unless we rise again to congressional level, which is, well, it hasn't happened to me lately. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah, again, to get kind of what you're saying here, but again, slightly different circumstances. And yeah, I'll agree with you that the formula issue is not exactly a federal problem, but I mean, they want the producers over to beforehand, but if they're not getting involved, particularly the Biden administration, if they're not getting involved to help try and solve it, well, again, I see shades of Hoover and that administration in this of just kind of effectlessness, which is almost to a degree, not exactly worse, but kind of worse. I don't know.
Well, Andrew, just one last quick. You know, I hear what you just said. All right, and I'm just going a little off the wall here. I mean, you got state, you got federal, blah, 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 blah. But the point being, with the subpoena, it's mandatory by all laws, federal and state, to answer the subpoena. Now, with Congress, they go to the DOJ and then they go for, you know, recommendation of criminal contempt, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, from the principle and the precedent aspect of it, if they can get away with this, then anybody else out there could go argue in a court of law and say, no, if you don't hold him in contempt or for criminal charges, then why should I be it? This is a fair, democratic society. You're supposed to follow the law. End of story.
I mean, I won't disagree with you on that general concept here, even if some of the specifics are slightly different. What I will say is that, well, I guess it's been a long time since we've seen a good hearing with someone presenting before Congress, or being presented before Congress, I guess I should say, and saying, well, I plead the fifth here. Though I'm sure that would cause its own legal kerfuffle. It's one thing to appear and another thing to, well, say anything of substance. The do not recall statement, as has been brought up, has been mentioned here. So, well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. All right, gonna take at least one more call before we hit this next break here. Right now, we do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, wanted to make a point about one of the good things that Governor Abbott has done, and that was in 2019 signing into law the indecent assault bill. And what that does is, I call it the anti-groping law, basically protecting both sexes. In other words, before that, the only remedy a victim would have in that case would be charging somebody with a Class C misdemeanor. Now, if somebody is in violation of that law, let's say groping a female, they can get up to a year in jail now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it is an important distinction to be made. Never exactly opposed to laws. I mean, okay, we have a ton of laws in the books. That's not exactly in dispute here, but refining some of them and reducing some of the loopholes or get-arounds here. And I mean, it may seem like a fine point to change from a Class C to a Class A misdemeanor, but again, punishable by up to a year in jail. Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, and as for Foolish Frankie over there, well, he makes he talks a lot about subpoenas and all that. Well, just do as Lois Lerner did, except you need to keep your mouth shut and take the fifth. It worked for Lois Lerner back during when Biden and Obama were in office.
Mm-hmm. Again, yeah, the fifth is, well, it's going to be around forever, I'm sure. It is a constitutional right to use it, but I mean, really, I think the idea of treating this like a bully pulpit and there's nothing else to be said is maybe a little bit of a mistake, just strategically. Again, I have a lot of dubious concerns about the Jan 6 committee, whether it would actually be effective in any real substantive way, or essentially a sideshow to distract from other issues, or maybe to try to beat up issues that might lead to the election implications. I don't know. The perspectives vary, and I tend to be on a fence on a little bit of it. But I think that the idea of there being substantive investigation is good. I just don't know if they're going about it in all the right way.
Well, there's already a determined outcome, and I will tell you this: going up before Congress, answer the subpoena, but take the fifth. But I will tell you, if you start talking before Congress, they're going to do everything they can to get you into a perjury trap. That's the way these people operate. Next thing I was going to say, hey, Frankie. You want to debate? I'm all for it. You can even partner with Raul. 2 against 1. It's more than fair.
Interesting concept there. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, we've had a lot of requests for in-person stuff, shall we say, at various points. Not sure if we're totally set up for that just yet, but I'm also not at all opposed to it here. So we'll see what comes up in the near future.
Fair enough, and I turn the mic over to you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the points and call. You have a good one.
Thanks.
All right, got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we got some calls on the line and some comments coming in. We'll get to all of that as much as we can here for the remainder of the program here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. Number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. Police have released the identity of a man found shot in northeast El Paso last night. 24-year-old Cesar Isaac Hernandez was found on Guadalupe Drive at about 9:30. He declined prosecution for the shooting. Hernandez was released, but then placed under arrest because he had a criminal warrant out of New Mexico. Officials with the El Paso Police Department have identified the man who was found dead in downtown El Paso. Officers have identified him as 67-year-old Salvador Jaime Gonzalez. He was found yesterday near Sacred Heart Church in Segundo Barrio. At this time, at the investigation, there is no indication that foul play was the result of the death. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Checking El Paso traffic, I-10 westbound at Reynolds. An accident is blocking 3 lanes there, the 3 center lanes. Only the far left lane is open right now, and it's causing a huge backup. I-10 westbound at Schuster. Another accident reported with El Paso Fire headed that way. So I-10 westbound Hawkins to Paisano right now, looking at a 49-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the 4-1 Weather Center, this is CBS 4 weather forecaster Brady Brewster. We're going to see those temperatures once again in the lower 90s today. We'll get a break from the wind for a few days, but we are going to crank up the heat. Mid-90s for Saturday this weekend. As we head into Sunday and Monday, we're going to flirt with that 100-degree mark for the first time this year. Winds crank back up early next week. Be sure to visit our website, cbs4local.com, for a full look at your forecast.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Finding a great hire can be a challenge. That's why there's Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Gerald Harmon. I'm the president of the American Medical Association. So we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Radio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. A staggering 8 million tons of plastic ends up in the world's oceans every year. If current trends continue, our oceans could contain more plastic than fish by 2050. Do your part. Purchase items made from renewable or recycled content and recycle whenever possible. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more we're going to try to get to here because, well, we really do cram it in here on Fridays, free-for-all Fridays, taking your comments and calls throughout the program. A lot of people chiming in, also dropping those reacts over on the Facebook page. We do appreciate Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. Most of them chiming in as well. Catherine Codry, RJ, Ed Munoz over on the YouTube as well. Ed with an interesting comment saying that I think inflation supersedes every cultural issue. Thus, voter anger gives the GOP an advantage for the midterms. I mean, it would fit certain patterns. Again, history doesn't totally repeat itself, but it rhymes. Happened to be in our nation's capital in 2010, around the time of that, well, the Tea Party wave, if you may recall that happening during, first part of the Obama administration. So that was an interesting time to be there. And a lot of similar type situations. Yeah, a phrase, it's the economy, stupid, definitely is persuasive whenever it comes to very basic things. I mean, sure, there's plenty of single issue voters out there, but the thing that's going to get people most out is being ticked off, unfortunately, probably, for our system, because people who just want to see change don't usually end up going at it. If they're ticked out because something bad happened to them is when they're unfortunately more likely to go to the polls here. So interesting comment there. Some other comments coming in here as well. Barbara Kodoska commenting about the Abbott labs here, blaming a bit of it on overinflation and overregulation, I should say. Edgar Ortiz are hearkening back to another issue of this week. I've heard a lot of hate for the city manager, Tommy Gonzalez, because of his likely payout. It's not his fault. If there is blame to be placed, it should be on the elected officials that approved his contract. He is just getting what was offered or guaranteed already. Don't be haters. I mean, yeah, the blame obviously very specifically lies with those who agreed to the contract between an employee and our public coffers. So, yeah, I agree with the sentiment here, though. There are, of course, more than a few people kind of happy to be, well, seeing Gonzalez go, and also unhappy about the fact that this is what it takes to get him gone. I've heard from more than a few people along those lines here. I'm sure opinions vary, but if you want to chime in that way, again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch are the pages to do that. Let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Harry on the east side here with us right now. Harry, thanks for joining us.
Happy Friday, El Paso. A little lighter conversation here. Andrew, I know this for sure. Once your show goes national, Barbara, Raul, Andrew, and myself probably won't be able to get in to talk to you. So I'm glad we're having our conversations now. That also would include Frankie baby. What I like about Frankie is he's got a whiskey tenor voice. And I'm not teasing him about that, the fact that he's 80 years old. Try 85, Frankie, baby. Try 85. And I couldn't talk for 10 years. I had trouble, so I talk fast now and hard, and I know my voice is weak. Here's some facts I want to give you, Andrew, and the great folks here listening. Two things we know we've been taught a whole life: death and taxes. You can count on that. Without delay. But, the philosophy based on facts, let me give you some Israeli and Palestinian, Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, and abortion. A fact, these things will never be solved. There'll never be an issue that will permanently resolve any of these things. It just ain't going to happen as long as the earth revolves on its axis. And you can take that to the bank, okay? And the last comment I would like to make, philosophically speaking, people are concerned about their own issues, whether it be baby formula, abortion, voting, whatever it is. We take everything personally, and that comes to us first. And then everything else after that, we consider as a problem. And the last comment I would like to make, I just saw Joe Biden on television, and in my personal opinion, he looks like a walking salami with eyes. That's all I got to say, Andrew. Thank you.
Okay, I got to wonder where you're buying salami so I can stay away from it, but thank you for the point and call. Appreciate it. All right. Again, let's squeeze in a couple more here. More comments coming in over on social media here. Edmund Munoz saying, Bears Democrat Party might be shifting more liberal as Fetterman might win the Senate race in Pennsylvania and Cisneros for the Rio Grande Valley. Interesting how that may play for the midterms. I mean, it is tempting on either side of the political spectrum to see the opposite end as this monolith, as a, everything there is just, opposed to my viewpoints and therefore bad. Not necessarily wrong, but it then loses the nuance of the position because neither the conservative nor liberal position is at all that united. There may be some common interest that often national politicians come forth on and end up making decisions on, but to see it as, therefore, they will always work in lockstep, if that's something that probably national Republicans have done slightly better in recent years. I mean, at the very least, the whole movement in march towards the Supreme Court control of it, and therefore this Roe v. Wade impending decision is definitely, and Barbara letting us let us know where not to buy salami too here. Yeah, you gotta let us know where to do that next time you call in there, Harry, because I've seen a lot of weird salami in my day, but never one quite like that here. But yeah, the idea of seeing it as just this unified, totally impenetrable fortress kind of thing is, well, it's just mistaken, because it definitely doesn't work that way. And as much as a big tent might be the idea behind most of the parties these days, it doesn't necessarily work out that way. And there's always a fight for control. Among other things, that Tea Party wave was essentially a revolt against traditional control within the conservative movement itself here. So there are vagaries of that here. Let's get at least one more call here. We do have Tony on the west side here with us right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Real quickly, because I think I got very little time. Number one, Barbara was talking about Veronica and so forth. And as much as I love Barbara and I love her party and I'm a GOP and yada, 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 she still doesn't get it. Look, the way to deal with the comments, Miss Barbara, listen to this. Instead of the way you did it, because Democrats don't listen to logic, okay? You went way over their heads. They don't give a darn about what you said. The way you got to do it is like this. When you talk about Veronica, you have to give the definition of a traitor with what she did against Abbott and what she's doing. So you give it's not name calling if you can give the definition if it fits. Okay, these people, many of these Democrat candidates are actually traitors. They're violating the oaths to defend the country, to defend the Constitution and so forth. That's what they are, and that's the way you attack them. You have to call them out for what they are: traitors, liars, deceivers. Number two, Andrew, you know I love you, guy. But when I talk about Jesus as being the Son of God, 80% of your listeners go to church and they claim on Sunday that it's the Word of God and that Jesus is the Son of God. And then you turn around and say that I call about religion. I'm not talking about religion. You, all of you, and you, Andrew, with all due respect, I don't want you to cut me off. I love you guys. But we can't have it both ways. We can't go to church Sunday and claim we're reading the Word of God and that Jesus is the Son of the living God, and then turn around on Monday and say, oh, that guy just called about religion. It doesn't work that way. You can't have it both ways. Either Jesus is God or he's not. But don't be calling him a religion, because you're just falling into that deception. And the last and final thing I want to say, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little too upset. I better wish everybody a nice weekend. And please, if you're going to go to church Sunday, be careful what you say. Be careful what you take an oath to. We already have violators of the Constitution all over Washington, D.C. Oh, mules. Andrew, thank you so much for letting me finish. 2,000 mules.
Sure.
I will buy you the movie. I will pay for your ticket. Andrew, nobody's covering this. Why are you not covering? Why is nobody covering? I will buy you the movie and the tape or the CD, or pay for your way, whatever. But talk about 2,000 mules. Everybody's got to know about this, Andrew. Thank you for letting me get it off my chest. God bless all of you.
Yeah, sure thing. Hope you have a good weekend there. And I guess the only point, I think we lost you there already. The only point I'm a little confused about is your reference there might referencing religion. I mean, when people go to church, to my understanding, definitionally speaking, we're talking about practicing religion. So if there was an offense taken there, it certainly wasn't intended. If I mean offense, I usually try to make it pretty clear. But I guess I was just referring it to as a comfort in vagary, wherever you may find it, be it within your practice of religion. So I guess that's the part I'm slightly confused about, because, yeah, if offense was received there, it certainly wasn't intended. I think most people would consider that being involving your religious beliefs, if you want to consider them spiritual, whatever. Yeah, I mean, again, you're entitled to your beliefs and how you want to practice them, if that's more working for you. When it comes to the 2,000 mules issue, I mean, we haven't covered it as much here because, to my understanding, it doesn't involve much local issues, or at least the data being looked at by there. I have watched some of the productions from that particular producer previously. Haven't seen this one yet. I can't comment on why others aren't doing it, except for, well, potentially liability issues is what I'm going to say. I want to say there's been at least one national or nationally distributed news organization that has had to say in a court of law that conclusively that this was not something that happened based on lawsuits. So that's about the closest I can say, but I'm not privy nor part of those decisions. We just focus on what we do here on this show. So as people bring it up, I'm not opposed to talking about it, but it's just not been a part of what we usually talk about on this kind of a program, I guess, is the simple answer. And I'm not opposed to talking about it more here. James Reckless saying, was freedom of speech a liability? I mean, sure, there is a very much, I mean, we find ourselves very much on the side of freedom of speech in general on this program. But again, we're talking about some very specific court cases that have happened in which, again, national news organizations have had to say on this issue because of lawsuits against them that, well, there is Look it up for yourself. I want to say it's Newsmax, but don't quote me on that entirely. I don't have it right in front of me here. So we'll talk more about that. Michael Patters with a link there to see it already. Again, we'll talk about most things on the show, but we're about out of time for this one. Tell you what, we're going to take that next break right now. Come in, talk to you about what we got coming up for you further on the show and a whole lot more. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Closing out the week, talking about what we got coming up, all that good stuff right after here. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is kind of a mess this afternoon. One reason is a big crash. I-10 westbound at Reynolds. It's blocking the 3 center lanes. Only the far left lane and the right exit lane are open right now. I-10 westbound at Schuster, another crash between Hawkins and Paisano. It's a 47-minute delay. Got a stalled big rig on Trans Mountain near the summit that's causing backup. Expect delays there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Boost your IQ by listening to Red Pilled America, the best storytelling podcast in the country. This week, we tell the story of one of the most important culture wars in modern history, Gamergate. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
Hi, I'm Scotty Clark from Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Did you know that about 70% of the heat transfer in your average home is through the ceiling? What that means is no matter what type of air conditioning system you have, insulation will make your home more comfortable. Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing has the ability to install closed cavity insulation, which can dramatically improve the performance of enclosed patios and converted garages. So call Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing for a free estimate at 595-4529.
Hey, it's Mario Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, rounding the bend on the last segment of the last hour of our last show of this week, but don't be at all worried. We'll be back here for you Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. every week, as we do here, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We've been talking about a lot this week. Tell a little bit about what we got coming up for you next week. More talk about some of these supply issues. Be focusing a bit more on that, some of the impacts on now trucking, and again, just trying to get a better hand on and handle on what you might be able to expect and how that impacts you and me. Important things to keep in mind here. A lot of comments have been coming in on a lot of different issues here. Barbara Kodowska responding to Tony saying, I get it here. Let me just say this, that when it comes to political discourse, it often feels good to just browbeat the opponent, to say, oh, you're wrong, here's all the ways you're wrong. But let me just say, you got to think about your purpose in mind. If it's to make yourself feel good, that's one thing, and I'm not going to say that you shouldn't do that. But if that's really your goal, it might be worth evaluating, because if the goal is truly to change minds, to build consensus, to get people to essentially agree with your position, often that kind of an action can have the exact opposite effect, because what you're doing there essentially is hardening positions. Because really what happens, in the way the psyche, whenever some core tenets of it are being questioned, the psyche, the human mind, reacts almost as if it is being physically assaulted, because we all live in a world of concepts. Getting a little high-minded here, I know, but stick with me for a second. We interpret our world not even just through the physical senses that we have, but how we conceive of them. There's a whole lot of concepts out there that are very crucial that is kind of hard to divine otherwise. I mean, the days of the week. If you didn't have a calendar to look at it, there's no natural, necessary way to be able to define it just without, very complicated formulas kind of thing. It's concepts is the point of it. And so without these concepts in mind of how we interpret our world, we can often be felt listless. So just assaulting them, saying your entire worldview is wrong and therefore you're wrong, often then hardens people's viewpoints. So what I have found to be most useful in talking about things, and something that it's not totally baked into this show, but I think we address it sometimes, is talking about the core issues in a way that makes it accessible and understandable and debatable. Because just saying you're wrong and I will never agree with you, sure, if that's your standpoint, you're entitled to it, but I don't think it does what you might be thinking the total achievement of it is in the long run. Because if the goal is to, just destroy all opponents, leave the field decimated, to conquer enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women, sure, but we also know, if you know what that quote is from, what the total outcome of that was. Not exactly a lot of nation building, shall we say. So the idea of having discourse, having discussion, getting outside of these echo chambers that we, unfortunately, many of us live in, unless there's a conscious choice not to do it, I think that's going to be more important than anything we could almost do in this life to get us back on track to where we need to be. Because these intractable positions, these I can't understand how anyone else thinks, that has, I don't think, served us very well as a society, as a community, or as a country. So that's something that we will continue to do, talking about the issues and debating the points on them every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So I want to thank everyone who has tuned in, chimed in, called in, commented, participated in the show. I don't just say this because having viewers is a good thing. I say it sincerely and meaningfully, because being a part of such a discussion in any format, if it's not here, find it in your own life, find it in your community, find it with your groups, your family, your friends, etc. Because talking about things, there have been some early observers of the nascent American Republic as it exists now in its infancy, noting that Americans' proclivity to form groups and to socialize and to talk about things with each other gave them great hope for the future of this country. And I still hold on to that even to this day. And I think it's important to continue to do so. So that does it here for us this week. I want to thank again everyone who has been a part of this. Seriously, it's not just a line. I mean it. And I hope you'll continue to join us every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Be sure to tune into the El Paso History Radio Show this week and talking about other local events. Otherwise, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when on the road. Have a great evening. I'll see y'all next week.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is kind of a mess this afternoon. One reason is a big crash. I-10 westbound at Reynolds. It's blocking the 3 center lanes. Only the far left lane and the right exit lane are open right now. I-10 westbound at Schuster, another crash between Hawkins and Paisano. It's a 47-minute delay. Got a stalled big rig on Trans Mountain near the summit that's causing backup. Expect delays there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Our homes, we protect them from intruders with security systems. But there's another kind of intruder most people aren't aware of until it's too late. Home title thieves. When a criminal transfers your home title to a fake identity and steals your title, no one will notify you. Not the police, not even your bank. Sadly, people find out when it's too late, when their home is sold out from under them, or the eviction notice comes. That's when the legal nightmare begins. You need Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection. For just pennies a day, Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier of protection around your home's title with 24/7 monitoring. Cyber technology has made it easy for criminals to steal your home. Home Title Lock alerts you if your home becomes their target. Make sure you're not already a victim. Go to mytitlelock.com and for a limited time, get your free title scan and complete title report. $100 value, free with sign up. Just go to mytitlelock.com. That's mytitlelock.com KTSM.com.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
All right, everybody in the car, let's go.
What are we going to do first when we get there, Mom? Go for a hike?
Sure, if you want.
What about canoeing? Can we go canoeing too?
I don't see why.
What about a bike ride? No, I want to fish.
Oh,
I've never been fishing.
Honey, we can do it all.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
It's not.
Is it going to be long?
No, sweetie.